We're going to talk about landscapes and trees. So there's these shapes of these trees that run down in through here, this shape right here. There's a shape of the trees going across through there, so that's this little shape running in through here. There's this big shape of this tree trunk running up through there, and then some smaller ones. And then you have the shape of this sandy area in front and this little triangle of lake. I just have to remind myself, am I going to get the whole thing wet, or am I only going to get part of it wet? I'm going to wet just the trees and the sky, but not the sand. So let's just mix up a nice little puddle of cobalt blue here, that right out to those corners. And then I'm going to let this be a sort of a cloudy space that moves through there. And then we have dark trees that are going to come off into here. And the beach in behind these trees doesn't really come down the whole way. I don't necessarily have to have blue inside of that. These in vertical motions, because that's the way those trees are going to look when they go in there. And if I have any unevenness in my paint, I want it to work for me rather than work against me. And so if I do my brush strokes in the direction of the final pieces, then that will happen. And get in place is that background area. And I'm going to do it in the technique that's known as wet and wet. To get those trees at the top of the hill, I put a pile of paint down on here, put some paint down on here, and then using that puddle of paint as a reservoir, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to start in that reservoir, and then I'm going to pull up 3/4 of the way, and now I'm going to come in with my brush and I'm going to lift that area out. And then I'm going to do it again over here, get that lightened up for those trees. There's also some tree trunks that are working through there that are lighter. And then up at the very top of this, we have just some little touches of, and these, you notice I just have my pinky on the paper so that I can control this a little bit more. I want to pull some pine needly shapes off to the side there. Okay, gray browns are going to come through and come down, and they have just a little base on that. There's 2 trees here, a slightly bigger tree. I'm trying to be fairly direct with this, just dragging this space up, and then I have some branches that go off, and once again just using the tip of my brush to try and say what those are. Notice that I have my pinky down on this dry paper off to the side here as I'm doing this calligraphy. Just using the brush to sort of talk a little bit about what these branches are doing. Maybe that goes into there just a little more. And if I sort of press down on the brush too, I'll get this little uneven edge to it. I'm liking that actually. That's pressing down, setting the brush down and then pressing just a little tiny bit more. And it's making this needly look to it. And I love that a lot. That's really working nicely. It's fun to get this feeling of these needles without getting too detailed here. Yeah, I'm liking that. So remember we had some brown needles. I could do a little bit of splatter in here. I think some splatter would be really quite nice. That was another rock right there. And then my tree trunk needs to find its way out and make another little shape around this rock. Okay, and then that can get a little more of a bottom on it. Let's get a little darker on the side of here, a little darker on the side of that tree.